Welcome to the ISO Show, dispelling myths and sharing tips for success to improve your business with ISO standards.
If you're listening to this podcast, then you're in great company. We've got thousands of listeners who have a thirst for continual improvement and raising standards in business. Whether your interest is in quality, sustainability, or risk standards, I'd love to welcome you as a member to our online platform for all things ISO, the ISology Hub. The ISology Hub is the leading place to get access to all of your online resources, from in-depth training courses through to our very popular coffee break training, to templates and action plans and many other resources to help raise standards. As a member, you get access to over 100 courses, taking you from learner to practitioner to leader. The ISology Hub has all the resources that you need, which will really help to make your life easier and to help improve compliance in those business critical areas. So if you'd like access to learning and compliance resources ranging from data privacy to environmental management, anti-bribery, business continuity, quality, health and safety, to name just but a few, the list is endless actually, then we'd love you to come and join us. Just head over to the isologyhub.com.
Hello and welcome to the ISO Show. My name is Stephanie Churchman and I'm the Communications Manager here at Blackmores. In today's episode, we're continuing with our Meet the Consultant series where we introduce you to our team of ISologists. You have already heard from many of them on previous episodes, as they often come on to talk about their standard specialties. But in this series, we're taking a bit of a step back from the technical world of ISO to learn more about the people who help demystify ISO implementation for our clients. Our team of ISologists come from a wide range of backgrounds, with a collective skill set to implement over 20 ISO standards. Together, they've helped Blackmores support over 600 companies to achieve various quality, environmental, and risk-based standards. Today, we're introducing one of our ISologists, Anju Punetha, who's our standards champion for ISO 20012-1 Sustainable Event Management and ISO 55001 Asset Management. Anju's been a member of our team for 6.5 years now, and judging by all the wonderful feedback we receive, she's thoroughly adored by all of her clients. And that isn't hard to believe, as she puts her all into every project, providing valuable insight and expertise to smoothly guide clients through either certification or annual surveillance audits. Anju's work ethic is something that I think the whole team admires, as well as her attention to detail. She ensures that we all stay on the straight and narrow, helping to assist other members of the team with peer reviews in addition to supporting ongoing ISO support work, and tackling projects for far more niche standards that can be quite a challenge to navigate. She's a key pillar of support here at Blackmores, and we can't be happier to introduce you to our audience here on the ISO Show. So without further ado, welcome Anju.
Hi Steph, and thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on. I think we're slowly getting through all the team now. I think we've only got a couple more members to introduce, so yeah, it'd be good to finally introduce you to our audience. So today we're going to be diving into a bit more about you and your journey into the world of ISO. As with many people that find themselves here, it's not a world that many people expect to find themselves in. So I guess we should start with, what is your role at Blackmores?
My role primarily involves supporting clients in two key areas. So first is maintaining and continually improving their existing ISO management systems, and then helping them establish and implement new standards. And as part of the ISO support journey, I typically conduct internal audits, review and update management system documentation, and facilitate management reviews. And I also train internal teams and prepare them for their certification audits. And whenever we are implementing a new standard, we would typically start with a gap analysis, that is comparing their current practices against the standards requirements, and then break those down into simple, easy to understand language and create a practical plan to bridge the gaps, because at times, the ISO language becomes very overwhelming for our clients and we really understand that, and especially if someone is implementing the ISO standards for the first time. And depending on the standard and the requirements from the client, we would facilitate strategic business risk assessments, environmental aspects and impact assessments, or if it is an information security standard, we would support them with the information security risk assessments. And additionally, I help clients in developing and implementing their policies and procedures, create legal and compliance registers, and also verify their readiness for certification body audits. So this is, I would say, a summary of my role here at Blackmores.
As I say, and you definitely do it with outstanding level of attention to detail. I think we've had comments from certification bodies that compliment your work on management systems as well. So yeah, you definitely do a fantastic job.
Thank you.
So that's on the work side. So here's a bit more about you. So what do you do in your free time? Do you have any hobbies?
Hobbies, that is an interesting one, I would say. So not exactly, I would say, hobbies, but whenever I get some free time, I really, love heading outdoors. Going for long walks are my go-to, I would say. Especially, they help me unwind both physically and mentally. And this is, I would say, more important, especially since I work remotely most of the time. So just heading out for, outdoors is a great help. And then I would say, yeah, I also enjoy cooking for my family and friends. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so experimenting with different cuisines and, blending spices is something I find incredibly relaxing, I would say. That said, I do have to be careful here, as I can easily lose track of time and spend hours in the kitchen rather than heading outdoors. So I would say, yeah, it has to be a balance between both of my favorite pastimes, I would say.
Okay, now I'm a bit interested. Do you have like a favorite recipe or a favorite thing that you like to make?
There's nothing favorite, I would say. It's usually, I would be so intrigued by if I go to any restaurant and I'm trying a new dish or something, I would be so intrigued by the ingredients they would have used, and I would bring that taste back, and I'll try and experiment that. But as I said, I simply enjoy all different cuisines, whether like, Indian cuisine or, Chinese, Italian, whatever. So, yeah, it has to be just anything on the go.
So that's more like the process of cooking, I suppose, especially if you lose track of time. I do the same with mine with drawing. It's very easy to just look up at the clock and it's like, oh, it's been 3 or 4 hours. Oops.
Yeah. So that's mostly something, I would like to do, at least do on the weekend. It would, just a Saturday maybe, spending some time on cooking, not the Sunday. No, I would not like to do that on Sundays.
Nah, it's rest day anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
So becoming an ISO consultant, I know a little bit about your past, but it seems like a weird meandering path towards becoming an ISO consultant. So for our audience, do you mind telling us sort of like how you became an ISO consultant?
So, Steph, to be very honest, I never planned to become a
No.
consultant, and let alone an ISO consultant, I would say. So, after my graduation, during those early days, I got trained as a special educator, and then I started working with children with special needs. So, I started my career as a special educator, and later on, I transitioned into the development sector as a research assistant, primarily working on projects funded by World Bank and UN World Food Program. And these projects focused on microfinance, training and development, and women and child health. So, yeah, I loved working with the diverse stakeholders and creating tailored training and communication materials for them with our support team, design and development team and all. But this role involved, I think I did this for around 6 years or so. But this role involved a lot of traveling, and this became a bit challenging after the birth of my first son. And that's when I decided to take a career break. And when I was ready to return to work, I started looking for an office-based role where, I could apply my skills. And the first opportunity I got was with the Swedish networking and telecommunication company, Ericsson. And after the career break, it was so, I would say, overwhelming just seeing the way the computers and the systems have evolved. The whole landscape had evolved in those years, when I took the break. So I started as a support staff initially.
Yeah.
And then, eventually became the learning and development manager at their rapidly growing global service center in India. So in this role, it involved managing training requirements, I would say, of employee base of around 4,000 plus, I would say. We had a massive global service center there in India. And it involves stakeholder management at all levels and also vendor management. So, yeah, I think I was lucky to get that kind of an opportunity. And then, as part of the operational excellence initiatives, I started getting involved into preparing different business teams for their internal and external audits.
Ah, I see.
And during this time, so around this time, I became a bit interested in Ericsson's group management system, which all legal entities had to comply with. And during that time, I had an opportunity to move into the newly formed quality department. And that's how, I got sucked into this. Yeah. I've been in this ISO world since then, and I gained various ISO certifications during that time. And I was the project leader for implementing Ericsson's operational maturity model, which was compliant to the requirements of ISOs like 9000, 14001, 27000, and OSHA's 18001. So career-wise, I would say, this was my biggest achievement, implementing that global operations maturity model in Global Service Center in India. So that's how I got more and more interested into the ISO world, I would say. And then joining Blackmores as an ISO consultant, I think felt like a natural next step when I relocated to UK. So yeah, I'm really thankful for getting that opportunity, when I relocated to UK. And yeah, gosh, it's been over 6 years now, and I have loved more than 6 years, and I have loved every bit of the journey here with Blackmores.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, you can see the logical progression, but it still seems like such a jump, doesn't it? Starting from sort of special education and then transitioning from training and then going through to implementing a full global management system for that company. I mean, that's quite a trial by fire, isn't it? Most people just start with 9001 for a small business, but no, that's quite a jump. And for the training side of things, I can definitely see that translate, because you create a lot of material for ISology Hub along with some of our other consultants as well, and you also peer review it. And yeah, it's always really high quality, easy to understand. So I can see where all those skills have translated. And our clients always say that you make the process really understandable for them, which is definitely a key for ISO, because if you're not in that world, it's very hard to pass the standards themselves.
Yeah.
Like reading the standards, when I first joined Blackmores, I had no idea as a 17-year-old. So all the consultants helped kind of break that down for me. I can only imagine when someone gets lumped with that in an organization and just go, there you go, implement it.
Yeah, and especially if it's their first experience with the ISO standards, they don't make the language very easy. Yeah.
No, even with all the terminology and stuff in the front, it helps to have someone just translate it into what that means for them. I think that's the value of you guys as consultants. You have the experience with different industries from all the clients you've worked with to be able to sort of apply it to how it would best work for a business. Obviously, standards are meant to be quite vague, so they can be applied to everyone. But yeah, you guys, that's where your value comes in, is being able to make it understandable and adaptable. So I suppose that leads on to, what's your favourite aspect about being a consultant?
I would say that, in this role, no 2 days are ever the same. And I think that's what keeps us all going also. And we are always looking for opportunities to develop our competence and, work around those new areas or new requirements. Because one day, I might be conducting a gap analysis for environmental management system for an IT company. And the next day, I'm drafting policies and procedures for managing, say, event sustainability for an event management company, or auditing a client on their information security management system. So it's a I would say we get to work with different standards and different industry types. And in my role, I would say I get to work with a wide range of clients across sectors like IT, construction, facilities, asset management, and event management, and also train operating companies I have worked with. And these would range from, small businesses to large and multi-site organizations. So, yeah, that's the bit, we find initially you would find it challenging, but when you start working and implementing those ISO standards, it becomes business as usual for you after a certain stage, I would say. And I particularly enjoy working on, I would say, integrated management systems. And I'm the strong promoter of, I would say, having integrated management systems. As having an integrated management system help our clients not just save time and money by streamlining multiple standards into one cohesive system. It also reduces duplication, improves efficiencies, and encourages collaboration, I would say, across teams. So breaking down silos and building synergies in the ways they are working within the organization. So that's one area of my interest, how to integrate the requirements of various management systems into an integrated management system.
Actually, that kind of makes a good segue. I'm have to hijack it for a minute here because that actually ties in quite nicely. We've actually got an integrated management system webinar coming up in a couple of weeks' time. So if anyone is interested in learning more about sort of the full benefits of an integrated ISO management system, feel free to register for that. It's going to take place on the 26th of September, and I'll put a link in the show notes for that. But yeah, it's good to hear that that's a favourite of yours, because most of our clients have an integrated management system now, so there's kind of little getting away from it. But yeah, I can imagine it poses quite a challenge, but I suppose it also does a good job of uniting a lot of aspects of the business. If you had different teams, they're sort of brought together to be able to collaborate on things, makes it a proper full management system as opposed to just a silo that affects one aspect of the business.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so glad that you enjoy so many aspects of it. I know some people can sometimes find it a bit of a challenge to adapt to being, switch your brain from one client to another every other day. I mean, you guys integrate so well with the teams for our clients. They always try and hang on to you for ISO support for many, many years, although we do like to shuffle you around every now and then. But yeah, you do it well. You blend in with the teams well.
Yeah, I think on a day-to-day basis, we meet, or we interact with our client teams more than, in fact, even what we get to meet each other. And yeah, we have great relations with most of the clients we would have.
Yeah, no, they definitely appreciate everything that you guys do for them. So I mentioned at the beginning that you're a standards champion for two quite niche standards, that being 2012-1 and 55,001. What other standards do you special in and why? And I suppose you could explain a bit about the 2012-1 and 55,001 as well, because they're not ones many people run into, I don't think.
Yeah, so as I already mentioned, I work on various ISO standards. So like 9001, which is quality management, then environmental management, health and safety management, information security, and then sustainable event management. And as you just now mentioned about 55,001, which is an asset management standard. So yeah, I work on all those standards, and majority of our clients, as you mentioned just now, have more than one standard. So by having, I would say, skills on multiple standards, I'm able to support them more efficiently and bring in required synergies. But yeah, I'm the standard champion for ISO 2012-1, which is Event Sustainability Management System. And this standard was originally created and launched in coordination with the London 2012 Olympics. And this standard specifies the requirements for improving the sustainability of events and applies to all types and sizes of the organizations involved in the events industry. So it could be from venues, caterers, to independent event organizers and corporate and public sector event teams. And it focuses on governing principles of sustainable development, which are stewardship, inclusion, integrity, and transparency. So the whole framework is set upon those governing principles of sustainable development. And ISO 2012-1 initially, as I said, was released in 2012, and this was revised last year in 2024. And the revised standard explicitly requires considering climate change and its impact on the event and stakeholders. And the new version also expands beyond environmental concerns to encompass human and child rights and social impact, which includes, mental health and diversity, and digital responsibility, and how organizations working in this sector should start considering these areas at the early stages of planning an event through post-event activities. So this is the whole life cycle of planning, the whole life cycle of delivering of events in a much more sustainable manner. So yeah, and recently I have been busy in putting together the toolkit for transition to ISO 2012-2024 and preparing my clients with the implementation of the revised and new requirements.
Thank you for explaining that. And preparing the toolkit well in advance is obviously the transition period. There's, is it 2 or 3 years for the transition? I always forget.
3 years. It's a 3 years transition period. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So we always like to try and get our clients, well prepared ahead of that. We try not to let them go into the last year before they can transition if we can help it. And also the updated version of 2012 one seems to be much more aligned with sort of ESG principles. We've noticed a lot more standards are kind of updating to include those things for more of like the social impact and governance. And so, yeah, we'll expect to see that expand to other standards. I know 9001 and 14001 are due an update, so I'm sure we'll see something like that come into it.
Yeah, we can already see, in the various conversations which are happening, these ESG requirements are slowly, I would say, creeping into all the standards. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, then. So I guess this is one that I'm curious about because, as you said, you probably have more contact with all the clients than you do with most of the sort of like the rest of the Blackmores team and especially the admin team. So I'm quite interested to learn, what was the biggest challenge that you've had during a project and how did you overcome it?
So one particular project, Steph, comes to my mind. I was working with a company that was implementing its first ISO standard. So without naming the company, I would say, So this project not only involved creating and implementing standardized policies and procedures for them, but also working on the overall change management within the business because they were not used to not just the ISO standards, but not used to working on standardized or formalized procedures, I would say. And they were mostly used to working in silos for many years and were not very forthcoming with the idea of establishing and implementing the standardized ways of working. But the project leader, he was so convinced. He said, this is the right time or the right approach to implement an ISO standard within our business. And I would say this was due to various reasons, such as lack of awareness and then operational activities taking precedence over, risks and process-based approach. And this would happen in many companies, the operational activities taking precedence over quality-related or policies and procedures. So, yeah. And the project lead was struggling in getting support from the project sponsor and the extended project team in terms of their time and effort. We had to literally, put the project on hold for a few months and we proceeded with the project only after getting the full commitment from the sponsor and other project teams members. And during this time, what we focused on was, ISO-related roles and responsibilities were built into their job descriptions for the various stakeholders. And they tried to bring them into, or have more sense of ownership to those responsibilities once they become part of their job descriptions. And these were agreed as part of the internal review processes by their senior management. And at that stage, one bit which was helpful was that the required time and effort for the different stakeholders within the business was agreed with the management team. So that really helped us, in kickstarting the process again. And at the end, I would say this project helped the company to embed the standardized processes within the business rather than, it being just a tick in the box exercise to achieve certification. So, so I would say the initial challenges led to a very fruitful journey for that company overall.
Oh, that's good that they saw the benefit in the end. We've had quite a few cases of that where it's obviously they have to get a standard for a tender or as a stakeholder requirement. It's not necessarily something the company had prioritized as something that they genuinely wanted just to improve their general business management. But obviously that comes as a benefit after implementing the standard. But one of the most important aspects that people need before going into ISO implementation is that leadership commitment is crucial. If it's not coming from the top down, people aren't going to listen and they aren't going to engage. So it really is important for people to have that buy-in from your top management, your leadership, whoever's kind of, as high a position as you can, really, and for it to trickle down. And I think it was a great idea for you guys to incorporate that as an actual part of their job roles because, as you said, it makes them feel like they're actually part of what makes the management system tick, how it makes the business work. They can have their input, help with the continual improvement efforts, so they can see all their effort paying off down the line. So, yeah, good to hear that they actually ended up benefiting from that in other ways after they went through the process, even if it was a bit like pulling teeth at the start.
Yeah, and now, since they are our long-standing clients now, so it's good to see them, the whole team always enthusiastic about ISO support activities and how they can promote their certification to new clients. And so it's really good to see that progression. Yeah.
Now, I think you mentioned this a bit earlier with your success with one of your first sort of ISO-related projects, but I'll ask it again if it is something different. What's your proudest achievement? And this could be, it doesn't have to be work-related, this could be just in your personal life as well. It could be anything.
So work-wise, I would say my proudest achievement is, when I'm able to see a marked difference in the confidence level of my clients. So from the start of the ISO implementation project, which is the gap analysis stage, to confidently facing the certification audit and demonstrating to the external assessors, that the implementation of the ISO project was not just a tick in the box exercise for them. So it's really interesting to see, the initial days when we are doing the gap analysis, they are overwhelmed by the ISO language, but by the time we complete the project and they confidently face their external audit. And so that's, I would say, that's the proudest achievement as ISO consultant, I would say, for me. Because, by undertaking the small incremental steps during the process of implementing the ISO standard, they have taken the first steps in their journey towards continual improvement. So it's really very heartening to see that. So I think that is the proudest moment work-wise, I would say. And since we were talking about this ISO 2012 standard, I'm proud of my recent achievement, where I supported a client in successfully transitioning to the revised ISO 2012 standard. So that was a very satisfying experience. And personally, I would say being able to maintain the work-life balance is something we struggle most of the time. But I would say that is something I'm acing as I'm growing older. So, that's one thing I'm really focused upon. Yeah.
It's such an important thing, isn't it? I mean, we sometimes have consultants that, unfortunately do have to work a couple of hours overtime sometimes. But
yeah,
I think as you kind of get more comfortable with managing the schedule, managing client work and stuff, that becomes a bit easier to sort of keep within the hours for the day. And I know you also travel back to see family, don't you, a couple of times a year as well? And I'm always impressed how sometimes you can juggle that with being able to work while you're out there as well. I know you've done that a couple of times.
Yeah, I think that's another, when you asked me about what I enjoy working as an ISO consultant, I think I really appreciate and love this flexibility which we get while working as a consultant with Blackmores. Flexibility to work, so you can manage both your personal and professional commitments. So that is one aspect I really appreciate, So that's how I managed to, travel to India, see my family and friends, and also continue working with the clients. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's great. Thank you so much, first of all, for coming on the show and recording with us. I know recording isn't everyone's favourite thing. So thank you so much for sharing all of that and for coming onto the show. I really appreciate it, Anju.
Thank you for having me, Steph.
Well, before I go, I'd just like to remind everyone to please like, share and rate this podcast in your preferred media player. If you do have a few minutes to spare, a nice shiny 5-star review would be really appreciated, as they do help us to reach a wider audience. And as always, if you have any topics that you'd like to hear us talk about, feel free to email us via inquiries@blackmoresuk.com. We'd love to hear from you. So that's all from me now. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch up with you on the next ISO show.
Looking to use ISO standards to drive better business practice? Contact us at blackmoresuk.com to access further information and book your free 15-minute call.